Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant Mcgaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. How do you grow as a leader and maintain a positive work-life balance? Seasoned hospital executive Andre Boyd will answer these questions and more. Welcome to your number one podcast station. I am your host, Grant Mcgaugh, and this is the Follow the Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Andre Boyd defines his brand through his family and leading with an example of caring for others. According to Boyd, the healthcare business is about people taking care of people most efficiently and effectively. Andre says to grow your community relationships, gather mentors and advocates, and find the hidden gem in yourself in order to shine as a hospital executive. Andre A. Boyd Sr. has been Chief Operating Officer of the Christ Hospital Health Network since January of 2022. In his role, he manages all clinical and non-clinical hospital operations for the enterprise. In addition, he is responsible for the transplant program, construction projects, and ambulatory outpatient centers. Mr. Boyd has more than 19 years of professional experience in healthcare administration, operations, business development, project management, physician relations, and ambulatory development. Before joining the Christ Hospital Health Network, he worked as Chief Operating Officer of New Hanover Regional Medical Center. New Hanover Regional Medical Center has 3 hospital campuses and a total of 800 beds. During his tenure at New Hanover Regional Medical Center, he increased volume and operating margin, improved patient satisfaction and employee engagement scores, and led multi-million-dollar construction projects. His professional career also includes serving as Chief Executive Officer at Jackson North Medical Center in Miami, Florida, Chief Operating Officer at TriStar Greenview Regional Hospital in Bowling Green, Kentucky, Associate Chief Operating Officer and Ethics and Compliance Officer at Centerpoint Medical Center in Independence, Missouri, and as Business Administrator in Palliative Services at Holy Cross Hospital in Silver Springs, Maryland. Mr. Boyd earned an undergraduate degree in biology and pre-medicine from Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and a master's in health administration from Tulane School of Public Health in New Orleans, Louisiana. Andre is a fellow of the American College of Healthcare Executives and a member of the National Association of Healthcare Services Executives. Industry Eras magazine recognized him as one of the 10 best COOs of the year in 2020. The National Association of Health Services Executives, better known as NASE, named Andre the 2019 Senior Healthcare Executive of the Year. In addition, he was named as one of Modern Healthcare's magazine's top up-and-comers in healthcare in 2016, as well as recognized by Becker's Hospital Review in 2012 as one of the 100 hospital and health system CEOs to know, and in 2012, 2013, and 2015 as one of the Rising Stars 25 healthcare leaders under 40. Let's welcome Dr. Dre Boyd to the Follow Brand Podcast. Welcome, everyone. This is the Follow Brand Podcast, and we're going to take it all the way to hopefully, at the time of this airing, it will be the Super Bowl champion Cincinnati Bengals. We already know they're going to be playing, and I'm rooting for them. I want them to do the impossible. I don't think they've ever won a Super Bowl. And then we've got one of our finest. They brought in a heavy hitter all the way from North Carolina, by way of Miami, Florida, Mr. Andre Boyd. He is now sitting in the office. He's running things in Cincinnati at the hospital. He's a COO there. We're going to have a candid conversation about his career, the things that he's leveraging on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis that is moving him forward. And he wants to open the doors for as many people as possible to take the same track. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Andre Boyd.
Hey, thanks, Grant. I'm glad to be here. Glad to participate in your podcast, my friend.
Oh, for sure. So the first question I got, and it might be a little personal, but I'm curious about it. But, why did you move to Cincinnati?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, when I was looking at other opportunities during that time frame, I actually had another opportunity in Tennessee. And, I would tell you the two main reasons for me selecting this opportunity. One is my CEO. Her name is Debbie Hayes. She's I clown with her when we're going through the process, but she's a great salesman. She truly shared the vision of the organization and where she wanted to go with the organization. And she also was very direct about wanting to make sure I grew as a leader. So that was one big piece of me choosing to decide to come here. And then the second part, again, I've been in healthcare for about 20 years now, Grant. I don't make too many decisions without my wife. And so her being comfortable with the community and her also being comfortable with my boss. And so her being able to come down and meet Debbie and I get to see Cincinnati and her feeling like it was a good place for our kids to grow up was a deciding factor into choosing this organization. But the last part outside of those two things, this is a great organization. It's one of the best in the city of Cincinnati, metropolitan area. We actually have a top 50 heart program here and some key service lines through in oncology and MSK, musculoskeletal. And we were chosen pretty consistently as the number one choice for communities here. So I couldn't beat any place such as this.
That is wonderful. And I'm glad you've made that choice, and I'm glad your family is happy with it. And speaking about family, you've got some roots down there in Louisiana. Right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's home. It's home for me. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. And, I have a lot of cousins and a lot of aunts and uncles there. I tell people I got to see two different New Orleans, the inner city part of New Orleans and then some of the areas because of, having a family. I tell people about my pseudo adopted family, the Elkins family. They kind of helped allow me to see kind of where I can go in my career and in my life. As a leader, as well as a individual that wanted to just do better in life and pick itself up from some of the environments that I lived in, but the big thing for me, I'm a big Saints fan, big LSU Tiger fan, and you see a lot of purple and gold and black and gold in my office and home. So
totally get that. Totally understand that. Love New Orleans. That's one of the cities I'll never forget when New Orleans came to Miami for the Super Bowl, and they won that Super Bowl, and they were playing I believe it was the Colts at the time. Mm-hmm. And, everybody been to South Beach. You've been to South Beach. You walk down South Beach. It has its own flavor. It has its ambiance. The Saints came in and changed South Beach into New Orleans. It was Bourbon Street. I've never seen anything like it in my life, in which one culture came and really just for a weekend or so changed it into their culture. I'll never forget it. It was fantastic. And I knew they were going to win that game because the energy they brought, to our city at that time was incredible. Incredible.
Yes, yes. Saints fans, we love to travel and we love to party. So it's Miami is a good place to do both.
Yes, it is. It is all about the brand. They brought their particular brand to Miami. We have our own particular brand here in South Beach, and they went well together. So speaking about brand, I was going to ask you, and I really want to ask you because you were here. I met you here when you were at Jackson North, and we were at a NACI event, and I really liked meeting you. And you exuded a great presence. And then I saw you at the national conference, and you just continue to impress me. So my question for you is, how is your particular brand helped to propel your career?
Yeah, it's a great question, Grant. I would say first, my brand is defined by my why. So again, growing up, I didn't, I wanted to be a doctor one day, and I chose not to be a doctor. And then after that, I actually taught at a junior high in my home city of New Orleans for a year. Subsequently did research on NIH, and then an uncle, he called me up and he told me about this profession of healthcare. He was the CEO of a hospital in San Antonio, Texas, and he said, you can't be good at research, so we got to figure something else out for you. But for me, my why was my family. When I got married to my wife, her name is Deanna. She kind of balanced me a lot, and I was more focused on really the expectations on what needed to be as a husband, but also that kind of, I got morphed in me becoming a better leader because I was more stable and focused. And then when I had my two kids, Andre and Avery, I really understood the meaning of truly leading by example. And being there for others and caring for others, and I brought some of those, I guess, emotions and feelings to my profession, because ultimately in healthcare, this is a business about taking care of people, be it your employees, your staff, your physicians, but also the patients, which is the most important. And so caring is fundamentally the ultimate way to make sure that you're doing that, and executing on caring on a day-to-day basis is your job. I think the next thing for me as far as my brand is I love connecting. I love connecting people to opportunities. Again, for me, early on in my career, it was about me making sure that I navigated in this profession to be able to get to become a senior leader one day. But then once I became a senior leader, it was about me helping others navigate this profession and figuring out, opportunities for them, and, what are the things they needed to kind of get to where they want to be for their own professional aspirations. I think the other big part is balance, Grant. So I I don't take myself too serious. Again, I've been blessed to be a executive for a very long time. I got my first C-suite role when I was 27. And, been blessed. I've had a great career so far. But again, I know where I came from. And because of me knowing where I came from, I value the fact that, I'm just a regular person. And as a regular person, you still have to take care of others and make sure those individuals know that you're approachable, and that you're accessible. And so, those are the fundamental things I try and do as my brand. Any place of any organization I've been a part of, people know that they can approach me and talk to me, and we just have regular conversations about their family and also business here and there. But just I want them to know that they know that I care. And then the last thing about just my brand, I tell people, you got to know your business. So over the years, I've tried to hone my skills, my toolbox, as you would say. I believe in continuous learning and always being prepared for the role that you're given. And so I try to make sure I'm always prepared, always consistent with the knowledge that I have to make sure I'm executing on the strategic direction of the organization I'm a part of.
Now, that is definitely a brand worth following, for certain. Now, I want to take you back a little bit. Take me back. You mentioned something that I really liked. You said you got your first C-suite role at 27.
Mhm.
I'm just imagining that you got out of school, and you're 22, 23, 24 years old, and then you find yourself in a leadership position, fairly short period of time. Take me through the story of how you got to that level. I mean, over the years from going from college, getting into the profession,
Mhm.
getting into management, and then into the C-suite. What was that journey like?
Wow. So we're starting from college. Okay. So I graduated. So I went to Nicholls State University in Thibodaux, Louisiana. I actually played college football there, go Colonels. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I had I have a lot of good friends that played football with me there, and some good classmates in college, and actually a couple of college roommates that I still stay in contact with. Post again, like I said earlier, I wanted to be a doctor. And so one of my biggest mentors, and I call also my father, his name is Thomas Elkins, and he was head of OBGYN at LSU. And then before he passed away, he was head of pelvic surgery at Johns Hopkins. And so I wanted to be like him. He was the ultimate role model for me. And when he passed away, it was kind of tough. He was my best friend. He taught me how to be a husband. He taught me how to be a father. And so, I kind of, after I graduated from Nicholls in 1999, I took kind of a hiatus for 2 years, I guess you would call it. I taught junior high at a school in Gretna Junior High, actually, in Gretna, Louisiana. And then I moved to get closer to my mom, Carolyn, and in Baltimore, Maryland. And I worked for NIH for a year. Again, great experience. Used my biology, chemistry major to the fullest. But again, it wasn't something that I was passionate about per se. And so my uncle, his name is Jim Elkins. He reached out to me, and we were talking over the phone. He tried and reach out to me probably every 3 months. He would call me and talk to me about stuff. And he said, again, Dre, you can't be good at research. So you got to figure out what you're good at. And I asked him about his profession, and he told me about him being a hospital administrator in Texas. And I said, so what does a hospital administrator do? And he was explaining to me some of the nuances of being a hospital administrator and some of his passions about why he chose to become a hospital administrator. And so subsequently, I did some research, and I applied to a couple of graduate programs and got accepted to Tulane. And when I got to Tulane, I didn't really know what I wanted to be at that time. I actually was going to be in the MPH program, and I explained to the counselor that, based on what my uncle did, I thought I would want to be a hospital executive. And so she said, maybe you don't want to be in the MPH program. How about you go into our MHA program? It might give you a better experience for what you want to do. And so I switched to MHA, and again, great experience. Was at Tulane for 2 years, concurrent with my didactic. We got to do a residency program, and I did my residency at Tulane University Hospital, which is part of HCA. And what I tell people all the time, they had like the superstar team. You're blessed when you get opportunities, when you get to work with a couple of superstars, but I would tell you pretty much their entire executive suite was superstars. And one in particular, their CEO, Jim Montgomery. Oh man, he's a UAB grad, and I learned so much from Jim. The COO at that time was Errol Actamar. He's currently a division president in HCA. Those two guys alone were just phenomenal. Great teachers. They were passionate about developing young leaders, and they pushed you. Even in the residency program, they made you, push yourself to meet expectations for yourself as from a professional development standpoint. So again, fast forward, I was graduating in 2003 from Tulane. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do a fellowship. And so I did a fellowship actually at the VA in Washington, D.C. And it was an interesting experience, Grant. Working for the VA was, since this is public, I would just say it was an interesting experience. And so I learned a lot about a lot of different things, but I knew that was probably not for me at that time, the place I wanted to be. So wasn't marketable at the time. And I got a call from a CEO that was a mentor in Chicago, and he told me about this another fellowship opportunity with Wheaton Franciscan Healthcare. Wheaton, which is now, I believe it's called Ascension, Wisconsin, but Wheaton Franciscan had majority of their hospitals, acute care operations in Southeast Wisconsin. They had some in Iowa, and then they had their corporate office in Wheaton, Illinois. And so they told me about this, fellowship program with Wheaton and how they're preparing you. And it's kind of a succession planning process for people of color. I think it'd be a good opportunity for you. And so applied for the program, got accepted. They rotated us. It was 3 of us that got into the program, and they rotated us to different regions. So I started off in Racine, Wisconsin, with CEO Ken Buser, who is still to this day is a wonderful mentor. To me, he's retired now. He's a Notre Dame grad, and to this day, he's phenomenal. Him and his wife are great people. And then ended up in Milwaukee for a couple of months, and then ended up in Naperville, Illinois, at the corporate office. And then I got, promoted to manager of business development for the Southeast Wisconsin market. And great experience. Got to learn a lot about business plans, ambulatory development, strategic planning. I got to work with the cardiac service line there. And again, I got to learn a lot, but, the system CEO, John Oliverio, he was a pretty direct guy and super smart. And he said he really wasn't putting too much resources in non-clinical people in hospitals. And, again, Grant, I want to be a hospital administrator. So I'm like, I don't have an RN degree. I don't have no clinical degree. So I got to figure something out. And so I just reached out to a colleague that worked for Trinity Health, and they told me about this administrative opportunity with Holy Cross Hospital. They were looking for a business administrator for surgical services. I'd never done it before in my life, but I said, hey, let's try it. And so met with the hiring manager. Her name is Tanda Russell. Canadian from I forgot what part of from Canada, but she's from Canada, and her and I just connected. And again, she took a chance on a guy who didn't have clinical experience, no surgical experience. She just took a chance. And so sometimes it's about somebody just taking a chance on you and believing that you have the capabilities to do well and do great eventually. And so once she took that chance, I didn't let her down. We did extremely well in the surgical services department. We had, one of the best robotics program in the Maryland area. We were a large GYN oncology, urogynecology practice that, and then Kaiser Permanente did a lot of surgical volume at the facility as well. And so we were doing extremely well. And then Tanda decided to take this great opportunity in Dallas, and I was kind of leading the charge for a couple of months until we got our new leader. But that experience gave me the opportunity to really excel and say, I can do this. That was my moment. I felt as a leader, I said, okay, I can really do this profession. And I'm starting to believe in my abilities, starting to get that, that swagger, I guess you would say. And it started to come. And then I got, just like started reaching out to some colleagues, and they told me about the HCA CO development program. And so, HCA CO development program is pretty competitive to get into. And, I was kind of like, well, we'll see how it goes. But eventually I applied for the program and I got in. And my first stint in HCA was with Centerpoint Medical Center, which is located in Independence, Missouri, a suburb of Kansas City. And my CEO there was Carolyn Caldwell. Carolyn, oh my God, man, she's, I think one of the things you said, what COOs do you look up to? Carolyn Caldwell, I look up to her. She was no nonsense. She has a big heart. She's very caring, and she loves to develop people. But she was no nonsense. She made sure you executed, and she made sure you delivered on what you said you were going to deliver on. And so that balance, again, there was moments where, you go to Carolyn's office and you're not meeting what you need to meet. And she has a nice little conversation with you about, hey, buddy, you need to get back on track. And so those conversations, but the biggest thing, I never wanted to let Carolyn down. And fast forward, she felt after 2 years in the program that I was ready and prepared. I got to meet with the division president, and both of them gave me a thumbs up. And then I got promoted to COO at TriStar Greenview. And again, I was 27, 28 at the time. And then I'm sorry, I was actually 30 at that time when I was at TriStar Greenview. And then it was a great opportunity for me because I got to connect with this guy named Mark Marsh. So I tell you people's names because it's important for you to know the people that helped me along the journey.
Right.
And so Mark was the CEO at TriStar Greenview. Mark was, I call it the mayor. So Mark knew everybody in Bowling Green, Kentucky. He was actually an ex-quarterback at Western Kentucky University. And so he showed me, he connected with me, a lot of people. He got me to understand the importance of the community piece of being an executive. He also was one of the best relationships guys I've ever met before. And so I learned a lot about relationships and relationship building from Mark. Today, he's actually a CEO of Owensboro. He's still in Kentucky now, but the guy was profound at relationship building and connecting with others.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
Fast forward, I got a call from a research firm about a CEO job with Jackson Health. I really wasn't eager or really trying to look anywhere else. I enjoyed being with HCA at the time. It's a great organization. But just like everybody that comes in this profession, hopefully, when you want to your goal is to be a CEO one day. And so my goal was to be a CEO one day, and got an opportunity to be a CEO one day. And so went through the process, the recruitment process, interviewing process, and again, it was a connection with the system COO. His name is Don Steigman. Don, again, he's kind of almost similar to my boss here, Debbie. He's a heck of a salesman. Jackson, as you can imagine, is a public institution, so there's some challenges, but there's also some great things that Jackson Health System does for the community. And so we were talking about those, challenges, some opportunities, the great things going on. There was a big capital campaign going on for the organization. At that time, they were able to get a bond for, I believe it was $1 billion to put into the facilities. And so it was a good time. And so he felt that I'll be a good fit. I was coming in also to Jackson North behind a legend. Sandy Sears was the CEO at Jackson North, and coming behind Sandy, that's some big shoes. She's a local girl. She's from Miami. She knows everybody. So you could be a little bit intimidated by that. But again, I prayed about it, Grant, talked to my wife, and we just made the decision. And so, but again, I was there for a couple of years. We did some great things. Had one of my leaders I always talk about, because one of the things that I talk about is when you go into an organization, you find those hidden gems. And so for me, one of those hidden gems, her name is Andrea Thomas. And, Andrea was at the time, she was director, physician, basically business development, physician relations. And I realized she could do more. And so we started giving her more stuff. I started giving her, she became kind of like my right-hand person outside of my COO. And, and then she fast forward, she got an opportunity to be COO with CHS afterwards. And so, but Jackson was a great experience. Again, the community in North Miami-Dade was comparable to my community in inner city New Orleans. So I got to be a part of the community that looked just like me. That was a great part. In addition, we got to do some great things. I used to always tell the team there, just because you're a public hospital doesn't mean you have to presume that you got to do things in an inefficient manner. The public hospital doesn't mean you need to be inefficient. It just means you take care of a lot more people that have, that may not have a payer source, but those individuals deserve the same amount of care and appropriate care and service that you would provide to somebody that didn't have a payer source. And so, my philosophy was, you do the best all the time, and eventually you're going to reap the benefits from the best all the time. And so we started to make a name for ourselves. Our ED started to turn around there. Our patient satisfaction scores started to turn around there. And people really started to hear about Jackson North, which was, fun, good, and great. And then, before I came here to Cincinnati, I got a call from a recruiter who's also a friend. And he told me about this opportunity at New Hanover Regional Medical Center. New Hanover, nice sized organization. It's a regional referral center in Wilmington, North Carolina. And, it was going through a succession plan. The COO became CEO. And then they were recruiting me for the opportunity to be COO there. And so was there for 5 years. Oh, my friend, I had a great experience there. They are truly, it's a family oriented community. The physicians are pretty engaging there. It was actually, they love to do things outside of work, which was new for me because, again, balance my family and time with work was kind of the two things that was important to me. But there you had to, do a lot more community functions and community events. It was just the expectation in Wilmington, North Carolina. But we did some great things, built a new tower. Couple of key service lines grew over the years. We got to recruit some phenomenal physicians there. And then again, I got a call about this opportunity here in Cincinnati at the Christ Hospital Health Network. And again, the rest is history. Again, met with Debbie. She's pretty persuasive executive. Told me about the great things we could do here, told me about the great things they're working on, and all the great work that the team has done. I mean, it became about the team and it wasn't about her, it was about the team and what the team could do by adding me as a part of it. And so.
Well, I tell you, Andre, you have recapped a lot. You've unpacked a lot. And I appreciate it because you have to understand the journey. And as you look back over your journey of just about 20 years and where you've come from and that point of uncertainty, trying to find out your profession and is this right for me, and then finding those people that believed in you when you may not have totally believed in yourself and brought you forward. You said, no, you can do this. And then you started to get your sea legs, right? You started to get your sea legs.
Right.
And then you really started to prepare yourself. So I got a question. This comes really from my audience. They ask me this a lot, is that now you've got this body of work, right? You've got this body of work. And you've been in several roles. You understand a lot of the levers of healthcare and a lot of the things that are important. How do you establish yourself as an expert in this field?
Wow, that's a great question. It's funny. Again, I don't know if I would say I'm an expert. I know a lot about a lot of things. So I think I've been blessed to understand. I'm gonna say it differently. it's not about becoming an expert. It's about doing things the right way and being effective in your role. And so you can be the smartest person and you can know everything about heart care. You can know everything about oncology. You can know everything about surgery. You can know everything about primary care, but you may not be effective in your job. And so for me, it's a balance of understanding the nuances and the key expertise for your job, but also understanding how, as a leader, because we're leaders. We're not a doc. We're not a respiratory therapist. We're not a nurse. We're not bedside care. We're actually looking at holistically the enterprise or the organization you're part of and making sure that we're, one, living out the mission of the organization, but then two, executing on the strategic planning of the organization to make sure we're still viable as an organization. And so for me, I look at it as, I don't know if I would say I'm an expert at whatever presumption that people want to be expert at. I know a lot about a lot of different things, and I've been able to execute, and I've been able to deliver. I have this saying, I like to win. So people hear that a lot about me. I've never not won at many things. Outside of my first year in college at Nichols, we had a bad season. We went 0-11, Grant. I'm sorry. That was my first 9. Again, it is what it is. But in healthcare, I've never not won at something I push myself to do. The other thing is, I would tell you, in this profession, it's more about the connection to people. I tell people this: your expertise, your knowledge, your skills, your abilities, it allows you to keep your job. It allows you to stay in your job and do well, and life is going to be okay. But your relationships, that would accelerate you in your profession. That would get you the next job. And so if people don't know you, if people don't believe in you, if you don't inspire others, if you don't captivate others with your abilities to connect, you're probably not going to be successful in this profession. Again, I know a lot of smart people. I know a lot of intelligent expertise individuals, as you would say. But again, what tells you why you got some people that may not be a superstar from a knowledge perspective or a skill set perspective, but they're still continuously accelerating in their career, is because they know how to connect with others, and they know how to build those relationships that align them to the next role for their career to continue to advance.
I tell you, Andre, this has been a good discussion. You're giving me some insight. You're giving the audience some insights. And we're getting to the end of our definitely our episode here. But I always unplug because I want you to talk to specifically our audience and think about this. Talk to that person that way as if it were you, as you began your career and you started in. There's one thing about getting book knowledge about being a hospital administrator, and there's another thing actually doing the work. As you stated earlier, you had to get that confidence, that level. Speak to the audience of healthcare professionals that are seeking to be good in this career path. What would you want to say to them?
Yeah, a couple of things, my friend. I would tell you, you have to be passionate about what you do. I mean, it's no different than you playing sports. It's no different than you taking care of your family. Once you get into healthcare administration, you have to be passionate about it. Again, I know individuals that came in this profession, it wasn't for them, and they're not in it anymore because, again, it wasn't for them, and, they chose to do something totally different. Know people that actually started out in the clinical realm. We found out that they were great leaders. They got into the profession as leaders, and some of them are CEOs now that started as nursing or respiratory therapy or rad tech, et cetera, because eventually you start learning about healthcare administration as a passion. The other thing I would tell you, you need to figure out how to find mentors and sponsors in this profession. Again, they tell you the definition of mentor is a person that gives you advice and counsel when you need it. A sponsor is somebody internal that fights for you. especially as a young leader. Again, I told you I accelerated in my career. Part of that is because of the sponsorship that Carolyn had for me, sponsorship that Mark Marsh had for me. All those individuals, they sponsored me. They identified key projects that, were high level projects that I can get exposure on, and be involved in to kind of continue to build my, again, toolbox, but also have people know who Dre was as a leader, and if he's capable of being another step in his professional career. The other thing I would tell you in this profession, you must have emotional fortitude. So some people get in this profession, and I'm gonna just geared it towards people of color. Sometimes you can get jaded sometimes, because again, there's not a lot of people that look like you, Grant, and I, that are in a lot of C-suite positions per se, and then you don't have an opportunity to have a lot of mentors that may not look like you as often as you want. And, you can become, and then your career is not progressing the way you want it to be. And so you get jaded. I tell people is just pause for a moment and really go back and look at your career plan. So in the Tulane, they tell you to do a 10-year, when I was there, they told us to do a 10-year career plan. You look at your career plan, and in your career plan, what steps did you take to get to that level? It's not just about what you did on paper. It's about how do you maneuver to get to those steps. And so I would tell people there's going to be moments where you're going to think things are not right. There are going to be moments where you felt like you've been passed up. There are going to be moments where you felt like people may not think you're the best, you're the brightest. There are going to be moments where people may think, well, we don't need that individual. You gotta know your own self, and you have to be believing you. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. And it seems simplistic, but it's probably correct, because in this profession, the people that I've seen been successful, they've done that. They believe, you talk about the Carolins, you talk about, I love Eugene Woods. I think he's one of the top tier executives, Wright Lassiter, top tier executives. Those guys believed in their abilities before they even got in the profession. I remember, give you a side note, I remember meeting Eugene when I was in DC at the VA, because he was at Washington Hospital Center. And he already had that executive disposition that as a young leader, you wanted to emulate. He already had it. And so, seeing that already in him, and, where he is now being the CEO of Atrium Health, it was just amazing to, just sit back and see some of these professionals that you got to grow up on, and they're your role models. Again, I tell young people, I don't get excited about, sports athletes per se, like I used to when I was a kid. I get excited about those superstar healthcare administrators that came and pioneered before us, like the Percy Allens and the Kevin Loftons and the Bernard. I get excited. I used to read so much about them, Grant, and just to be in, be in their company at conferences, and then getting to know them and being able to text them and ask them for advice. Those are things that were like exciting for me. And so I share that to say, I think all young up-and-comers are either more established executives or more established directors or mid-level leaders. If you take the time to continue to build your network, continue to reach out to people and there's a lot of people that want to help you. I promise you, there's a lot of people if you want to reach out to me, I will take your call. I will if you want to have a conversation and you need some advice, I will take your call. I try not to help people as much as possible. The biggest thing is going back is the emotional fortitude. Don't ever get jaded about this profession because you're not moving at the pace that you want to move. Eventually it's going to happen if you put your sweat equity in it, if you build the right relationships and you believe that you're going to be that next leader. I think it's going to happen. And then the last thing, Grant, I would say you have to balance in this profession. It's probably later in my career. Didn't do a good job early in my career. But you have to balance your career with your family. You got to know what's important to you. Going back to my why, again, I work a lot of long hours just like everybody else. But again, it was a conversation between my wife and I said, hey, honey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for the family. Are you comfortable with this? And she said she's fine. And so once you set expectations with your significant other and your kids, but you also know that you have to be there for them because life is short. I'm 45 now, and my kids have grown so fast in a short period of time, and I'm not, and I'm trying to be there as much as I can for the little things as well as the big things. And so I say balance is important.
Well, I tell you, Andre, balance is extremely important, work-life balance. And I think we've all learned that now through this COVID time period, a lot of that merged, right? So you have this hybrid experience. And a lot of things you just talked about here, I see a commercial for NACI. If people are not familiar with NACI, the National Association of Health Services Executives, specifically for African Americans, to get networked, to have mentors, to be advocated for, to have sponsorship. I remember seeing you, I think it was in DC, when you got the award for the Executive of the Year. Mm-hmm. And, having that kind of visibility and that type of thing, I think it's wonderful. I think that's where a lot of young leaders can find solace in what they're trying to accomplish and get their true story on things and not how they think some of these things are perceived.
I agree.
So if people wanted to get in contact with you, Andre, what's the best way? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it an email?
I think for me, LinkedIn would be great. I try and reply as best I can when I get a chance. LinkedIn. My email address is on ACAT website as well. So you can reach out to me there if you need to. Grant, I'll tell you, I try and mentor as many young students as possible throughout the year. Some of my expectation for myself is at least to mentor 50 students a year to 100. That's just kind of the thing I set for myself. I mean, and that may be just a phone call, a quick text. Hey, how you doing? I had two fellows at New Hanover, Chantel and Alexi, great young leaders. We created that program at New Hanover to bring individuals of color within the organization to kind of help increase their capabilities and also infuse the organization with talented young leaders of color. So hopefully those guys are doing well and continuously growing in that system. And but I keep an eye out for them to make sure that they're doing the right things all the time. The other thing is, I'll tell you again, don't ever be shy. I want to give you a little bit of when I started this profession. So shy doesn't, my mom used to always say, a closed mouth don't get fed.
Right.
And so, and when, in this profession, I used to have this competition with my really good friend. I used to always, at every conference, I would try and get 100 cards, business cards, and I would follow up with 100 people every time I left that conference just to reach out to them. Some replied, some didn't care. Who cares? But ultimately, I kept that consistency every year. I kept, again, you cold call people or you reach out or you cold email people. And the first thing is not to get a job. That's what I tell young people. If I don't know you, don't ask me for a job because I don't really know you. Ask me, can I have an opportunity to talk to you? Can you give me some advice on how you navigated your career? Can you give me some advice on some avenues and what I should do on career planning, et cetera? Those are the ways you get your foot in the door to connect with people. Sometimes some young people will probably just reach out and ask for a job and I don't even know you. And I think that's the same dynamics as some other executives. I can't give you a job if I really don't know your skill set. I don't even know who you are. So I would tell young people, build a relationship first. And then over time, you won't even have to ask for the job if people find out that you're really good. Because most jobs, I would tell you, if an executive finds out and they're mentoring somebody and they know that individual is really good and a young up-and-comer, they're going to find an opportunity for you.
Man, well said. Well said. Sage advice. Love having you on the show, Andre. This has been been wonderful. And I thank you for taking the time to join us on Follow the Brand. You can look at, or I should say, you can tune in to all of the episodes of Follow the Brand at www.5starbdm. That is B for brand, D for development, and for masters.com. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Take care, Grant. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.